Alright, in this video I wanted to go through my picks for UFC Winnipeg Burns versus Malott, and I'll be real honest with y'all, this probably won't be a super long video. If you're expecting a 10-minute breakdown for Robert Valentin and Julien LeBlanc, you're just not getting it. Over half of this card is new Canadian signings making their debut, so there's not a lot of big names here or ranked fighters. I think Gilbert Burns is the only ranked fighter on the card, and he's on a 4-fight losing streak. But I'll at least hope for some good finishes and fun fights, so yeah, let's get into it. First fight of the night is Jamie Siraj versus John Yanis, and Jamie Siraj is a very good submission artist, but overall his striking is pretty unproven. And this is kind of random, but he was knocked out by former UFC fighter Diego Brandao earlier in 2025. John Yanis is a good overall boxer with good combos and has good forward pressure, but he was submitted in the first round by Austin Bashi in his last fight. So going off that, give me Jamie Siraj by submission. Next fight on the card is John Castaneda versus Mark Vologden, and John Castaneda is a good wrestler and a good grappler with a solid submission game as well. He's definitely the more experienced fighter, and he's coming off a split decision loss to Chris Gutierrez. I think Mark Vologden is more powerful and a better finisher. 10 of his 12 wins are by finish, and he seems to be a pretty good overall fighter. But he's coming off a Contender Series loss and still just seems very inexperienced, so I have Castaneda by decision. Next fight on the card is JJ Aldridge versus Jamie Lynn Horth, and I think JJ Aldridge has good movement on the feet. She has pretty good volume as well, and she's a solid striker, but she's just not that good to me and not that dangerous. She's pretty experienced in the UFC, but just not that good of a fighter to me. Jamie Lynn Horth is kind of a bully in her division, especially in the clinch. She's a big, tall, long flyweight and a long kickboxer. And her only two losses are to Miranda Maverick and a split decision loss to Veronica Hardy. So I think Jamie Lynn Horth wins the striking exchanges and gets the decision win. Next fight is Mitch Raposo versus Alan Nascimento. Mitch Raposo is a powerful, aggressive pressure fighter and pretty much just tries to land bombs. He also has pretty solid takedown defense. Alan Nascimento is a long, rangy outside striker with good kicks and a very, very good submission game. He's 4-1 in the UFC, and his only loss is a split decision to Tagir Ulanbekov, which is not really that bad of a loss at all. I think this is a tough fight to pick. Mitch Raposo is 1-2 in the UFC, but lost 2 split decisions to above-average fighters. But give me Nascimento in a close decision, maybe another split decision, or I think he could lock up a submission early into the fight as well. But I do expect this to be an entertaining fight. Next fight is Melissa Croden versus Daria Zelezniakova. Melissa Croden is very tough and very hard to get out of there. She has good power with her striking on the feet and on the ground as well. And she's coming off a loss to Luana Santos, but that's not that bad of an L. Zelezniakova has very good cardio and is an above-average striker, but she struggles to get off the ground and doesn't have the best takedown defense. I think Croden could and probably should take Daria down and beat her there, but I have a weird feeling Daria is going to sneak an upset in Canada, so give me her by decision. And the next fight is Tanner Boser versus Gokhan Sedakom, and Gokhan actually looks like a pretty solid heavyweight prospect. He has good boxing, good kicks, good footwork, and has strong ground and pound as well. He is pretty untested, but he took Oleg Popov to a decision, who is 6-1 in Bellator. And Boser is a decent fighter at heavyweight. I think he looked better at light heavyweight. He got cut, got a win at heavyweight, and now he's back at heavyweight. And I'd say his one advantage at heavyweight is he definitely moves better than he looks. This is a good vet matchup for Gokhan, even though he's actually a year older than Boser. And even with him being a year older, I think he's quicker, more powerful, and is a better complete striker, so I have Gokhan probably getting a first or second round knockout. And for the last fight on the prelims, we have Julien LeBlanc versus Robert Valentin. LeBlanc has a very good clinch game. He works in the uppercuts, knees, and takedowns very well from there, and he has a pretty decent submission game as well. At this point, he's just very unproven. And Robert Valentin, man, I don't think he is good. He's 0-3 in the UFC. He's been finished twice, and his last fight was a very bad loss to Ateba Gautier. I'll be completely honest, this is such a shitty matchup to be the headline for the prelims. Like, this is really the battle of the bums right here. But give me Julian LeBlanc, most likely getting it done with the hometown decision. And to open the main card, we have Denis Buzukja versus Marcio Barbosa. Denis is a solid boxer with decent hooks, but that's about it. He's 1-3 in the UFC and is making a move down to featherweight, which I do think is a smart decision for him. But Marcio Barbosa is a very tough matchup. He's coming off a crazy knockout in the Contender Series and obviously has crazy power, with 14 of his 17 wins coming by knockout. He has really strong hooks, strong knees, and really good ground and pound. And you just have to go Barbosa by knockout here. You can't go anything else. So that's the pick. Next fight, we have Thiago Moises versus Gage Young. Thiago Moises has fought a ton of high-level competition, including Beneil Dariush, Michael Johnson, King Green, Joel Alvarez, Islam Makhachev, who he took to the 4th round, Melquizael Costa, and Benoit Saint-Denis. So just going off that, I think he has a huge advantage in this fight. He's pretty patient on the feet, but his striking has improved a lot, and he has a very dangerous ground and submission game. Gage Young is coming off a decision loss to Quillen Salkeld on the Contender Series, which to be fair has aged pretty nicely. He's now 1-1 in the UFC with both fights going to decision. He's a smooth striker with powerful hooks, good kicks, and solid wrestling. And while I do think Gage Young is still a pretty good prospect, I think this is too much of a step up for him right now, and I have Thiago Moises getting it done by submission. And on to the next fight, we have Jasmine Jasudavicius versus Karine Silva. Jasudavicius is a high-pressure brawler who mixes in the clinch and wrestling work good and has shown some pretty slick elbows at times. Silva has powerful striking and really good kicks and is a very dangerous submission artist. Across 19 wins, 17 have came by finish. And she's training with the Fighting Nerds right now, which I think is a nice plus as well. Silva had 3 first-round submissions to start her UFC career before going on a 1-2 run with all decisions in her last 3 fights. And I think in this fight she's going to get back to her old form and spoil Jasmine's night and get the submission win or a clear decision. Featured fight of the night is Mandel Nalo versus Jai Herbert. Nalo is coming off a first-round knockout on the Contender Series, and he has 14 wins by finish, 12 of which are in the first round. He's largely unproven, but looks very dangerous. He's a tricky kickboxer that uses head kicks, long punches, and his knees very effectively. And Jai Herbert is a solid overall kickboxer. He tries to play at range and take advantage of his long reach, but he's not the best on the ground. He's 3-5-1 in the UFC, but has fought some good fighters like Ilia Topuria, who he actually dropped bad, Fares Siam, Chris Padilla, Ludovic Klein, and Renato Moicano. So I do think Jai Herbert has the experience advantage, but I'm still going to take Mandel Nalo in this one. I do think Jai Herbert is actually a pretty decent fighter, but Nalo looks really dangerous, and Jai Herbert is getting older and seems to be falling off a little, so give me Nalo by finish. And with the co-main, we have Kyler Phillips versus Charles Air Jourdain. Kyler Phillips is a dynamic, high-paced striker, but he doesn't seem that powerful or that dangerous. And he's coming off back-to-back decision losses to Vinicius Oliveira and Rob Font. Charles Jourdain throws a lot of strikes, and he kind of just used to throw a lot at you, but the last couple fights his striking has become a lot cleaner. He's definitely a forward pressure fighter, and his best weapon is probably his guillotine, which he has used to get 4 of his last 5 wins. While there's no way this should be a co-main event, I do think it's a fun matchup and should be a fun fight. Charles Jourdain has the momentum right now, coming off back-to-back wins, and he has the hometown advantage, so give me Jourdain in this one. And for the main event, so we can wrap up this 2 out of 10 ass fight night card, we have Gilbert Burns versus Mike Malott. Gilbert Burns is on a 4-fight losing streak to Bilal Muhammad, Jack Della Maddalena, Sean Brady, and Michael Morales, and he was finished twice in those 4 losses. And I will say, watching back his knockout loss to Michael Morales, he did kind of get his ass whooped, but I think he performed better than Sean Brady did. And Morales is just a mutant at welterweight, so I don't look at that loss as like, oh man, he got knocked out by Morales. Burns has lost a lot of his speed and power, but still has a very good ground game and still has his hooks and his leg kicks. Mike Malott has 13 wins with 11 finishes. He doesn't have crazy power, but definitely above average power in his punches with good speed as well. He also has an above average submission game and an underrated ground game. He's pretty patient and calm on the feet and likes to take his time to set things up, which makes him a pretty accurate striker at welterweight. His last fight against Kevin Holland was a weird one, but I think he clearly won round 2 with his front kicks and his good boxing combos. And in the third, Kevin Holland's striking improved, but right when he was really starting to get it going, Mike Malott picked him up and slammed him down, controlled him for almost the rest of the round, and got very close to finishing an arm triangle. I think this fight will be more competitive than a lot of people expect, especially early on, but over time Mike Malott will start to put a clinic on Burns. Burns' best chance is catching Mike Malott early, maybe hurting him with the leg kicks and then catching him with the hook, but I don't see that happening, and I expect a pretty dominant Mike Malott decision. Either a 49-46 or a clear 48-47. Alright, so those are my picks for this abomination of a card. And as always, let me know if I cooked or let me know if that shit was ass. Either way, just let me know, and I will see you on the next one.